Welcome to the Money Collective podcast. We're here to uplift your financial well-being. Your hosts are me, Mel Pierce, and Darlene New. We are the co-founders of the Money Collective, and together we have over 50 years of finance and banking experience. We provide the tools, information and guidance to better understand your money and feel confident making money decisions. Welcome back to our podcast. We are so glad to be chatting all things financial well-being today.
That's it.
And I don't know, we always start with a bit of a truth.
Yep.
I might go first.
Yeah, you go.
Self-nominate.
Okay, great.
Oh,
it sounds bad. Some truths can be good, you know.
Sure. This one isn't so great.
All right.
So I have got a 2.5-year-old car. It's a Subaru XV. Quite like it actually. So
it's a very nice looking car.
I like driving it around. It suits my needs very well.
Mm-hmm.
And because I like going on like little bushwalks, so
Yeah.
it's a little bit, all-wheel drivey, gets me around, but then I don't like a big car, so it's good to go to
Sort
work.
of in between, it works.
It really is, good. Anyway, happy days.
Except
we record these podcasts at your house.
Yep.
This is Darlene's place.
This is our front room. Yep.
And we do a lot of recording for lots of different things actually. So we also have an online program. So we do lots of videos, recordings, and for different purposes all the time. And I was driving here a few weeks ago, and you've got a lovely speed camera set up somewhere close by.
Great. We've got a school at like a long road.
It was a long road,
and it's near a school. So you've got 40 and 50k zones.
Oh, right.
And I've been caught there many times.
In the 50k zone, and I was doing whatever it is just over the speed limit, like 55, 56 or something like that.
Yep.
Got the speeding fine, but what happened is that triggered a rego check on my car, and my car wasn't registered. So that was so much fun. I had been driving it around. It was meant to be registered in like 8 months ago, something like that. And somebody else said to me, because I stopped at the petrol, like just did a servo filling up a couple of months ago, and they go, look, your car has been flagged. They've got cameras and they do rego checks on everyone. It was like a community service.
At the service station.
At the service station. And they're like, we think your car's not registered. And I'm like, oh my God. So this is a pre-warning that I got.
Yes.
And I had my daughter in the car, and I said, Tilly, can you jump on the Vic Roads website and do a rego check on my car?
Yes.
And anyway, it didn't come up. And I think I'd done this a few times because my number plate was 1UM40Y, and in my brain that rego is 140Y. I'm 40 years old. I turned 40, right? And that's how I remember my number plate. Turns out that is not my number plate.
You got a letter and a number on it.
I did. Like the 0 in the 40 is not a 0.
It's an O.
It's an O.
Oh no! So you did the rego check
incorrectly. Yep. So anyway, she's going, Mum, that's not working. And I'd done it myself a few times. I'm like, oh, that just must be an error. I'm sure I've paid my rego. Anyway, that is where I ended up. And then, so it turns out I did not register my car at all. I didn't pay the registration. And then I came to work and I told you, and because I got a $900 fine.
Oh my gosh! So this is,
and my car is actually not registered. I can't drive it.
That's right. So this whole exercise. Anyway, talk about what happened next. The process of getting it back on the road.
Yeah. So my car, it had gone so long. Not only was it like I had an expired, it was fully expired, unregistered. My car was not allowed to be driven on the road. So I got a fine for that, $962.
I feel like I'll grab a calculator and I'm just going to do
keep adding things up. So the fine was $962.
Yeah.
And then I had to go to get a new roadworthy on the car, right? A roadworthy, that cost $395.
$395, yep.
That was fun. And I took my car in there and I'm thinking, please, it's 2 years old. I've got it all serviced. Don't be anything wrong with it. I'm driving in and a stone hits the windshield.
What are the odds? Yep.
And he goes, the car's fine. You just had a chip in the windscreen. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
So $3.95 for that. That was a fun day. But on that day, I had to get a permit to drive my car to the mechanic, and that cost $50 or $60.
50, let's say 50. Yeah, $50
Yep.
Just drive it for the day to get it to the roadworthy centre.
Yes.
And Mel's been, so we have a work car, so Mel's been driving that. Otherwise, can you imagine what that cost was to get a permit every day?
Oh my God.
Till you could get the roadworthy and get back to Vic Road.
Would have been terrible because the process is taking me 2 weeks at least.
Yeah,
I
so
would
it could
say.
have been $50 for 14 days. Lucky.
But I don't know,
wasn't
maybe there's a different rate
Maybe.
for however long
Yeah,
you need,
could
because
be.
you put the duration.
True.
I
Yep.
have no idea what that is.
Yep. So then you had to go back to Vic Road.
Then I had to go back into Vic Roads, and then I had to go in and re-register the car, which was $820, which is just normal registration.
Yeah,
so I had to have paid that anyway.
Yeah.
And then there was something else. I had to buy new number plates.
Oh, yeah, what? Yes.
So I went in and I said, can I just keep my old number plates? You
Yeah.
know, the 140Y.
Yeah.
I was happy with those. And they said, no, they belong to Vic Roads. And I said, well, can Vic Roads please reissue them to me? No, you must destroy those number plates.
That's very triggering.
So,
Government
and then I
processes.
had the options like that. I got the upsell on, would you like the slimline black or would you like personalised plates? I'm like, mate, I just...
Just whatever's cheapest.
I'll have those blue ones. They're fine.
That's right.
And that was another 50 odd bucks.
Another 50 for that. Yep.
So what does
And
that...
what was the speeding fine?
Oh, the speeding fine. Okay, so this is another issue. The car is registered in a company name.
That's why you didn't get the renewal, right?
The renewal. Well, I do not... So this is a whole nother part of the
Right.
story, right? Because I've been talking to people and they say they get text message renewals. I didn't get anything.
No.
Not one reminder to say, hey, lady, you're driving, your car is not registered.
Yeah.
No red big, nothing in the post, no emails, not a text message,
Yeah.
zero reminder.
Yeah.
From Vic Roads, which I had out with them, and they said to me in the Vic Roads Centre, oh, we don't actually need to issue you anything. It's your responsibility to get the car, have the car, drive a registered car. And it was a courtesy on us to
let you know.
to even advise in the first place that you had a registration renewal coming
It does
up.
feel like a bit of a money generator for them, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah, because we don't have the sticker in the corner anymore. I feel like I'm making excuses, but I feel like the system makes you feel like
I feel like the system isn't wired the way that, and we condition to wait for a bill to pay it, right? Unless we set something up on direct debits.
I couldn't also set up a direct debit.
Yeah.
So my company, you need to get a company. This is for anybody who owns a company, who has a car registered to a company. You can open a Vic Roads online account. I've tried this, no joke, at least 4 times, including going into the service centre myself and asking Vic Roads to set it up for me.
Yeah.
And then again last week when I re-registered the car, they said, oh, this is a little bit unusual, can't help. I've tried it again for you and you should hear something back in about 10 days. They couldn't set it up an automatic direct debit for me either in person.
Yeah.
And that still hasn't been resolved.
Yeah. So it makes
That is the system.
The system is a bit broken, right? Or, not to advise just because it's in a company name, not to give you reminders, or it doesn't seem right. There should be a better system to alert you of not paying or sending you when the bill's due. We are conditioned that way. I suppose, I don't know, I feel like saying, what are you going to do to make sure it doesn't happen again?
Oh no, put a massive reminder in my calendar.
Yeah.
For this time next year now.
And it did make us, because we do also have a work vehicle in a company name, and my car is also in a company name. So the first thing I did was get online and make sure that I was registered.
Big group calendar invites.
We've got these calendar invites to make sure that we remember to register cars and company vehicles if they're not advising us. So certainly if you have any company vehicles, just make sure they're registered. The math is nearly $1,457.
Did you you didn't put the speeding fine in yet?
I did not.
No, because that was your question.
I did, sorry.
Yeah. And so, because the car's registered to a company, you get the massive, you get a big speeding fine because you don't have a driver, so it's like $3,000.
Yeah.
You got to nominate a driver.
Yeah.
And I was like 2 kilometres over the speed limit.
Yeah.
Lovely.
All for 2 kilometres.
All for 2 kilometres. I don't know, it's a bit at play here. But that was like $245, I want to say.
What? So $1,702. Yes, for that. And what comes to mind then, because where do you find that money? You know, like, does that come out of your emergency fund?
It did.
Or, because where else it's not accounted for, right?
That's right, it's not.
So, you know, it is an example of emergencies that happen, you know, all the time. Things that happen outside of what we think is going to happen.
Yes.
A lot.
So the other thing that when this happened, I felt like a real dummity person, like especially in the family at home. And I was like, really...
Why did you take that on your shoulders?
Well, that's right. But it played out quite well.
Okay.
It wasn't too bad. And like there's been a couple of snide remarks about, you didn't pay the rego mal. Like that it was all my responsibility to pay. It is my vehicle.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but I pay all the vehicle registrations, to be honest. And we have a few vehicles, and my husband, who's also my customer.
I'm having a good day.
That's some nice. Yeah. Okay. So, he has an earth-moving business, so we've got trucks and other vehicles.
You've got to register those as well.
Anyway.
And if it's under this same thing, if they're not being advised.
But it's all the same stuff. But I do take that responsibility on in the household about who's paying what. But I feel like I've started to do a bit of reconditioning on him and those family dynamics to go, well, hey, that's not all my responsibility. Yeah, we all need to, like that mental load of taking on all the administration.
Well, which does lead us into the topic of the day, but I've got to do my truth first because it is very related to that. It's about role playing and what roles we actually play in our household and the impact it has on people's financial well-being. So we'll come back to that, but it is related. And we've got Apollo. This is Apollo.
Apollo, everyone.
He's joining us today. He can be our money collective
pooch.
Yeah, that's right.
The money pooch.
The money pooch. Yeah, that's really good. Yeah. Yes. So I think that the system let you down, you know, in summary. But I do think, like, if the message that we take away is think about things that emergency, you know, or things that happen that you're not planning for.
There's always going to be unplanned events.
There will always be unplanned events that you have to deal with.
The lesson also for me was like how you navigate bad, like not great situations. Like his life is always going to throw those things. So it's how you kind of approach it and deal with it.
That's right. And take something good out of it.
And
the good is you've shared that story. And I know I'm on it to make sure it doesn't happen to me.
It's a community service.
Community service. I think it could happen to anybody because the system doesn't let you know this stuff.
Yes. No, they don't.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So, Yep. My truth is about financial planning, actually. So my husband is, and I forget his age. I'm not very good at this, am I? 50. I'm 53. And he's nearly 56. There we go. He probably thinks about life in a bit of a different way than me. So he compartmentalizes, like, once you get to 60, you're able to retire. Well, that's his goal, to retire, where I don't see life like that. So I don't want to put a date and a time on it. As long as I'm doing purposeful work, you know. So, but I don't think he will retire at 60, but it has prompted us to think about what our plan is between, you know, now and then, and his goal of being able to not have to work in his job if he chooses not to. And that was probably the trigger. And it was actually after some conversations that you and I had about what we wanted out of our business, which is also a really good thing to do for people that are self-employed. Like, you know, what do you want the business to provide for you, and in relation to that goal? And it's certainly having a business partner. And it's really good to have those conversations and see where you're going and on the same page. So that was really helpful because that triggered us into saying, okay, well, we really need to review financial planning. We haven't done that for a while. So we have done that, and the main thing that was reviewed out of that is that we have a self-managed super fund. and it hasn't been performing to market standards. And that's also been a trigger, actually, because we've been doing some workplace workshops and things. And in our online course, there's a topic about financial education. And it's really important to understand the performance of your super fund. How has it performed compared to the industry norms?
Yes.
And, you know, how's it going? So I've been doing a bit of that too. And, you know, I can log in and look at, you know, the super and how it's been performing. And so I've been more focused on that. And yeah, so really wanted to have a review of that. And, you know, with lesser years left to go to access it, we want to obviously optimize its return, and we definitely want industry standard or above. It'd be awesome, right? So, yeah, so that's why we went to a financial planner and reviewed that. So thank you, AL, for doing that. And he has recommended, you know, some changes in there and what we're investing in. So because it's self-managed super fund, we've had to sell shares of companies we don't want, and then we're putting them into some more different investments, more like the ETFs and the managed funds. Yeah, so it has been a really good exercise. And I guess the moral of the story is, you know, how long have you reviewed since you've reviewed your super? If you haven't, go and do it. See how it's been performing against other, you know, other funds. And whether or not you need to make some change.
Yeah. Can I ask why you started a self-managed super fund?
Great question. So
because, like, for me, I'm like, why would I think that I could outperform the market? Like, I don't see you every day researching it. Like, what was that?
Yeah, really good question. So we set up a self-managed super fund when I used to work in corporate. So Dennis and I used to work for the ANZ Bank. And, you know, being in finance, ANZ used to have a financial planning service. Mm-hmm. And so we went and saw some financial planners. And I really think it was a trend.
It was.
I can't think how long ago we did it. Maybe 12 to 15 years ago. And the reason we did it was because it was a bit of a trend. They thought the amount of super we've got, you know, at the time we probably had 600,000 or 700,000 in super. And yeah, I think it really was just a trend. Everybody was thinking, let's go self-managed super fund. But realistically, if we didn't have it now, we wouldn't set up a self-managed super fund.
Would you go back to just going into an industry or a regular fund?
So we talked about that actually with AL, whether we should do that, because I was pretty much all for it, because the fees for auditing and accounting are actually more expensive than a fund. The thing is, because we've already got it set up, and Dennis really likes the way the systems and that it's in, and that's the way he's wired. So it will take a lot for him to move away completely from it. Mm-hmm. So we've done sort of a staged move whereby we're investing in more ETFs, managed funds. We'll see how that goes. But what I've found is it limits us, because it's self-managed super fund, it does limit us into being able to invest in, because I inquired, I'd really like some more ethical type of, and you are limited with some of those and what you can do, because I've got a self-managed super fund.
You're saying a self-managed super fund will give you more choice, and you can be more specific about what you invest in, which does align more to your values.
You could.
Instead of going to a big fund manager who's going to do it ethically or not.
Yeah, you could. If you really wanted to spend the time and the effort, we've got the ability to do that ourselves. And so we want to buy some of that, do some of that. Now the question is, will we or won't we? That is a question. Time will tell. But for now, I'm just going to see how it performs with the changes we've made. Mm-hmm. And then, the question is because if it outperforms after the fees, then it could still be good. But if we didn't have it set up, I wouldn't do it. And the reason we kept it for so long, though, was because we're self-employed, where it can be advantageous if you buy a business property in your self-managed super fund that you work out of. And, depending on, business, we kept it open because of that. But as time's gone on and the style of business we are, with Mel and I and where we've taken the business, I just can't see us having a fixed bricks and mortar building. feels not like us and not flexible enough. You know, we serve all over Australia. You know, it's not just a local business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, very good. I feel like we don't need to thrash that one out.
We'll see how it goes.
So good. All right. Well, thanks for sharing that. That's cool. And today, like, we really wanted to talk a lot about gender role playing, like at home a little bit more. We love talking about that. And really particularly because it's a bit topical at the moment, because the Workplace Gender Equality Agency have just released their first ever annual report.
So what is that report? So for the first time ever, if you've got, I think it's more than 100 employees and you're a private enterprise, you had to report in some data to this agency that's been set up by the government, which talks about different roles in the organisation and genders, you know, so men and women are all different roles in your organisation, and what your gender pay gap is.
Yeah. So really that whole agency has been set up to fight the gender pay gap, you know, because we can't hide anymore. So these public companies have to report and tell us what their gender pay gap is.
That's right.
There's no hiding. And so the problem is, well, the first thing is I think it's fabulous that we've got this. So it's giving some transparency.
Well, it's a step in the right direction.
You can even go, like, if you're looking for a new job, you can look at that business and go, well, hang on, what's the gender pay gap? What am I up against as a woman to go and work for that company? Because it's right there. You can look up every single company in Australia and see, it shows how many men and women they're employing as well, does it?
No.
It's the percentage of men and women in the workforce. So you can see if it's really skewed towards employing men or women, and then also what the percentage difference is between how much men and women are being paid at that organisation.
That's right. Exactly. So overall in Australia, we've got, if you put all those companies that have done it, it's 21%. So the pay gender gap between men and women are paid less, 21%. And if some of the key points I think out of the report that I've picked up on is, why is that? Mostly women are in those lower paid roles in organisations. So
we call that the slops.
And we'll talk about in a minute, why do women take the slops? Like, it's a really interesting question. And you've got less women in leadership and management roles. So that is a key reason we've got a gender pay gap. Industry-wise, there are a couple of industries that I've identified that are outperforming the norm, and some of them are actually got better, no gender gap. Sometimes women are being paid more in these organisations, and the industries are education and health.
I would still want to ask whether they're being paid fairly in education and health, given the roles they're playing. So if I think about education and our teachers, and I know I can only talk about like what's kind of happening.
And it's not the public system that's been reported into here either.
It's just private.
So I do wonder whether that could be different once you get public information into there.
Very interesting, because like in general we've got a problem with our teachers. They're not staying in their employment because the jobs are stressful, and are they being remunerated properly for educating our children?
A huge question.
That's
right. It doesn't talk about that.
Are women still taking on the predominantly lower paid
industry roles?
That's right.
Absolutely. And you would suspect,
and healthcare.
Health might be the same.
I'm just thinking all those, I know so many people do aged care work.
Low childcare.
So they're women predominant industries, and still the trades are being paid
higher. Absolutely. So it doesn't actually pitch industries against each other, but I would absolutely suspect they're in lower paid industries as well. So but those two industries, I think education, the people that had reported was about a 8% gender pay gap, and then health is about 13%. So it's still in favour of men though, overall.
Okay.
But yeah.
Okay.
And it's industry total, it's still lower than the 21.
Yes.
So.
And what were some of the worst industries?
Worse in energy, you've got some work to do.
Yep.
Some of those companies are up to 45% pay gap.
That's sick.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine, like, you know, the roles in, like, the disparity in roles in those organisations are that big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True. So, so if you look at energy, mining, construction.
Yes.
Yeah.
Banking and finance.
Banking and finance was 25.
Okay, that
those
surprises
sort of
me.
white, law, they
I'm
were
not
sitting
saying
around
that
25.
25%
It's not
is
great. So they were, closer to that middle number, but yeah. So interesting. So more, engineering wasn't great either.
Yeah.
So, but it just, if you overlay that, and recently we've had, we have an International Women's Day once a year. That is a bit triggering really, because International Women's Day has been celebrated for 113 years. 113 years we've had a day especially for women.
I found this year
And
particularly
we still
triggering.
haven't got equality.
I wasn't like, I think in other years when I've gone, oh, we've got International Women's Day, let's go girls.
Yeah.
This year I felt really kind of like disappointed, like that we haven't made progress.
Yeah.
That we're still talking about the same old shit. Like,
We can
I
talk
feel
to
like
the
I've been
council,
talking
really.
about this personally for like 10 years going,
Yeah.
and I think when you start and then as time goes on, you kind of get worn down. You go, what is this mess?
Yeah.
And what is it really all about?
That's right. And why aren't we at there? And I think we can all, have reasons or things that we can change our own behaviour on too, so, yeah.
The reason why we care about it so much is because women, like, we care about financial well-being, and the financial well-being outcomes for women are worse.
Yeah.
Particularly, like, for women in, after their 50s, well, young women as well, but like that homelessness in women, we've talked about that before, because like they stay in relationships. It's how we manage our household still. It's this societal problem where women take so much time out of the workforce, and then they become unskilled. We're not earning the superannuation, and then we're still in this like role care playing thing in the household where we're taking on the majority of the administration burden and also caring for the children. And then when they come back into the workforce,
they take the slops.
Because
it's like we are conditioned. Well, I don't know. This is interesting, whether we're conditioned or whether maybe we just made this way, but I don't want to accept the made this way.
As in we're more
made to do,
women
caring
more,
and nurturing.
Yeah,
or
we're
something.
caring and nurturing.
Yeah.
So it's
I don't
what
think
we
I am. So whether or not, naturally we take those roles, and then a few things happen, and there are things we can do, which, we can come back to in a second. But when we take on those roles, and if we're out of the workforce, and look, if you've got a mortgage these days, 2 people have to work. It's just where society and economically...
You want to drive a car around and live in a house and eat food and
you
do
need 2
things with
wages
your
normally.
kids.
That's right. And it could be a part-time wage or a casual wage that tops it up, but predominantly women are taking that. So they're looking after the kids, maybe, if you've got children, and then you might be doing a bit of, part-time work or casual work. And that's why we tend to take the slops. Or believe that we just can't do both. I don't know.
And believe we can't get out of a relationship because we're dependent on the money. Yeah. So our lives are so intertwined with this money thing, because if you're in a crappy relationship and you've been out of the workforce, where are you going to live? How are you going to pay for life? And how are you going to support your children? Like that is, or do we just make do with what we've got? Like I think most of us, if you're truly honest with yourself, are in a relationship because it's easy. Because it's going to make life easier.
And it's hard to go and do it all on your own.
How do you separate from what you've got? So,
that.
like, to be a really, truly independent person nowadays is hard, particularly if you haven't been that way right from the get-go.
That's right. And if you want a house and if that's a desire, those things, it's hard to do that as one person.
And that's not just a woman issue. It's a man and a woman issue.
Definitely.
It's a 2-income situation. How are you going to raise those kids?
And it's everyone's responsibility to make all the household work and work. So, yeah, so I think we just haven't come out of, maybe 100 years ago where women weren't able to work when they had kids, or, so that job was for them to stay home and look after the kids. But because of economic reasons, we've had to shift. So women are picking up more work to make ends meet, but the system hasn't supported around them to make those change. So when they're out of the workforce, they don't get paid superannuation, for example. That's actually a rule is recently, the government's about to change that, which is a good thing. But if you're not doing that, but other things, we can take the lead at home on stuff like that. I heard the other day, why couldn't, if you're in a partner with a guy and he's working and you're not working for a period of time, why can't he give you his portion of that super for that period of time?
Yeah.
Why can't that happen?
Yeah.
Of course it can happen.
Of course it can happen.
But we don't think like that. We don't do that.
Well, the other thing is too, like, if you do separate from someone, you're legally entitled to half of that superannuation anyway. But women, well, I hear this all the time, that they're like, no, he can keep the super, I want to keep the house. Things like that.
Yes.
So we're not thinking objectively about how to separate. We're thinking very emotionally, and we don't know the difference or it's a very blurry line to make objectional, because we're also not qualified to make money decisions, and we kind of tap out of making some of those money decisions sometimes.
Yeah.
And I'm going to talk about this a little bit later, but it's like, how do you have an exit clause all the time for a relationship? Like, what is that financial exit plan for a relationship, even if you're happy in a relationship?
Yeah, that's right. I talk about this a lot. I think if you can have those conversations with your partner, you'll actually make your bond stronger.
Yeah.
But people resist maybe having it because might think that they're about to walk out or something.
Yeah, or how you need to be able to have those vulnerable conversations at home.
Yeah.
But to keep our independence, and it makes us stronger, it makes us more empowered.
Definitely. And there are definitely things that workplaces can do as well.
100%.
And this triggered me actually around this report time, because Mel used to work with me at Rams, and Mel, I employed 2 senior loan writers, and the first one I employed was Guy, and I paid him top dollar to come with high expectations of what he would do in the business. And because of circumstances, I had the opportunity to work with Mel, and I really, really wanted to work with Mel, and financially I thought the only way I could make it work, and I offered her what she asked for. There's so many stories in this.
It was half.
Yeah. It was 130 and 80, I think.
No, I was being paid 60.
Oh, 60 plus commission.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 60 plus commission. Yeah. So if it rolled, that's right.
So it's less than half.
That's correct, right?
And we're doing the same role, working
the
same hours, doing the same job.
Exactly. So this was really triggering for me last week.
And this went on for years. Just
a while. Until Mel, to Mel's credit, and
it was about 3 years
come back
in.
on to me in a minute, raised it and said, and I matched it. So I think of the role that I've played in gender equity. I didn't do the right thing, and I've thought about it, analysed it, and I can look from my own, situation. I couldn't afford it, or, whatever those reasons were. But what I should have done was be upfront, because I think workplaces should be open about salaries. And because I was conditioned a certain way in workplaces that, that's sensitive, you can't talk about wages, you don't, so it's a private thing. So in my mind, I, justified it because of those type of things. But that is actually one of the core root causes. Organisations should be open. That would be a next step in the workplace report, to be able to say, are you sharing across your organisation everybody what they're getting paid?
Yeah.
Because that would stop some of this happening. And if I was more bolder and actually had all the wages, that would never have happened.
Yeah.
Because I stand for gender equality.
Yeah.
And sometimes we have blind spots around that actually happening under our watch. And we have to be better at that. And I have to be better at that and walk that walk. So so if if I had my time over again, I would never have done that. And doing the work that we do now as well, and looking at really what the root causes of these problems are. So I think it's really important that we do things in the workplaces to better support families. And it shouldn't just be for women. It should be for families.
I hate the terminology maternity leave. It's not maternity leave, it's parental leave. Like the sperm and the egg, it's two parties. They make a baby.
Yeah.
They both want the baby. I really do think this nature nurture thing is a real thing here. We are so conditioned to women, and they still say maternity leave all the time. Like I'm hearing it on the weekly.
Yeah.
Maternity leave, and I'm like a little vom in my throat around that.
Yeah.
Like we need to have workplace policies, and I know that they're coming along where men can take parental leave. That is all great. That's awesome. But still, it is women who are taking on the majority of the caregiving, will either quit their job, come back part-time, lesser hours. That time out of the workforce means that they are losing skills and job opportunities. And I have heard people talk about this where somebody wants to come back in, so a woman wants to come back into a workplace. They might have been in a management position, and that they come back into that management position on a part-time basis. And then you've got people in that organisation working full-time, and the mentality is, why should I take orders or direction from somebody who's part-time coming in and out? And I've heard this example where in this situation, that woman has gone and had another baby, God forbid, and then still, can you believe the nerve that she wants to come back in at that same job?
I know.
I've heard people bitch about, this is like barbecue talk, that woman wants to come back in at the same role when all these people, they haven't taken time off. So this is like that bitchiness and the catfighting that women are still doing, because it's almost like the decision you need to make, do I not take time off? Do I just keep going because I need to keep my job on there's totally validity in that way of thinking, but then that woman who has the time off, it doesn't really have the right to come back into that leadership role again because of the time off. But the workplace needs to support that woman. I believe, to come back in, have flexibility to work part-time, and allow men to do this too, because our culture doesn't allow men to step. It's like, you're full-time or no time, mate. Like, it's okay to have your 6 weeks off, but can you come back into that part-time leadership role? And that, I know I'm going on a rant here, but 7% of all roles are leadership roles are part-time. 7%.
How about 7%? But guys can do them too, right? And there is that unwritten rule in some culture, like organisations with their culture, that it's not okay for guys, even though they might have a policy.
It's totally unwritten.
It's not the done thing around here.
It's not the done thing to do. I can't do that. Even like a person who's thinking I might do that, that thought might be so fleeting because they know that they can't really entertain that as a valid thought of
that's it.
Going back part-time.
It's
so we haven't got flexibility in thinking, even though we all might be on the fringes of thinking that we want more flexibility. As a whole, we need to come together and talk about how we could solve for a more flexible workplace. Can we bring our children to school? Can we breastfeed I've been in places where they said, can you take that breastfeeding somewhere else? After sharing a lunch together, I watched you eat, baby can't eat.
It's ridiculous, isn't it? We need to get better. But I do think there's lots of stuff workplaces do, but we can also think about the roles we're playing at home and what we're telling our kids. Because, it's interesting, right? I'd say in my household, we do play equal roles, and sometimes some of the home stuff, Dennis does more than I do. But it evens itself out, but, even my daughter, Lily, we were in the car the other day going to school, and she was telling me about a teacher she really loves was taking parental leave. And why was he taking parental leave? He wasn't the one having the baby. This is what she said to me. And so there's obviously, because she said her and her friends were talking about the girls, this has come from a conversation in the playground with kids. And she's, 13 years old almost, still conditioned to think some way that that's the way it should be.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that was great that she talked about it, because then she had to hear me go on about it. But what, is it innate? Or, again, we're still conditioned with kids around us or people around us. We need to be doing something.
The other thing I hear out of that is that she loved that teacher.
Yeah,
so awesome teacher.
Yeah.
He's a guy and he's taking parental leave.
3 months.
I don't know the guy. I like the guy.
I like him already. I know, right?
Don't know him, but he must be doing something to like have that sort of thinking going on and have that ability to go, right, this is how I want to contribute.
Yeah.
And some organisations are doing it better than others.
Definitely.
And as a society, we are doing crap. I'm like giving us a really bad low score on that. We're a 1 out of 10 as a society to provide that flexibility for each other.
Yeah.
So how can we talk about this a little bit with more of an open mind? Yeah,
and take action. So take action at home, challenge your workplaces. So,
and that's hard if you're like challenge your workplace. What if you're that first person? These things take time.
It's really hard. But, coming back to, we've got to do a little bit more than talk. We've got to, do something. So, whether it's conversations you're having at home with your children, actually the roles you're playing at home and what you can do. Definitely, if you're a woman, don't accept the slops when you go back to work. And
value yourself.
Making sure, and asking whether you're being paid the same as a guy, and, challenge your boss. But, I want to leave this conversation and say, Mel, I'm super sorry about that situation. And if I can't take it back and I can't change it.
Yeah.
But I wish I never did it.
Yeah. I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah. And I think I pretty much addressed it as soon as I became aware of it. I don't know how I became aware of it, but I did. And then I'm like, well, hey, I think I sat on it for a week, and then I went.
I'm glad it was only a week.
Yeah. But mind you, like there was 3 years of disparity of like the previous, and like that did hurt me for a long time. Like
I think there's still some hurt there, right?
Yeah,
and I think I'll beat myself up forever about it. But it's not right. And if you are a small business out there and you're doing that, don't. Change something, do something, and you might, as I said, sometimes these are blind spots, but do something. If you are one of those, don't do it.
Yeah, there's so much in that.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah, and it's a bit of a longer podcast today, people, but now we want to leave with a question or talk about some clients that we work with to understand, might share some insight, or you might relate to their stories and might give you some good information.
So we come up a lot with people who are separating. So financially, they do need to do a financial separation and then work out a housing situation. They might own a house, they might need to sell a house, rebuy houses, things like that. Anyway, I have a client who has separated in the past, and after the back of that separation was able to buy a small unit, and they now have a new family, new partner, mixed kids, 4 kids in the mix, and they're renting. And then the question is, we're happy with renting where we are. It kind of fits our lifestyle. We're living in the area that we need to right now for the kids. We probably are not in a position to buy a house for what we need where we live, but maybe for our long-term future we would like to buy something that we might want to retire in together, or it could be even a holiday house that we could use in the meantime, something
and is
like
that to build financial resilience as well?
I think it's the long-term financial position, like to buy property, and that retirement and the security for the future. But then that kind of raised the question of how to do that. And that was, because they might not be in a position to, put a deposit on. So do we use the equity that's in the existing property that's owned by one of them, and that property was viewed as a safety net for that person who had exited another relationship. Because she's like, well,
scared
hang
this
on,
might thing
that's
happen
my
again.
backup plan. That house is if shit hits the fan again and I need to
Yep.
get out of this one, me and my kids have got somewhere to live.
Pretty important.
Or if this all goes to plan, my kids have got something for their future. It's going to kind of help me because I've kind of been through it before. So that exit strategy and plan for me is
Really?
basically personified in that house.
That's right. Helps you sleep at night too, right? You know?
Yes. So, and I don't want to leave myself in that same position.
Yeah.
I think that it forms our money story when we've been through something. We're like, well, I'm not doing that again.
Yeah.
Like what you just said about the wages.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that
I'm
again.
not that. Yeah, that's right.
I'm going to new way forward. So with this situation, like, because I kind of challenged them saying you're not in a position to just go and buy another property now.
Yeah.
Like there's not enough deposit or equity or borrowing capacity. Like it's just not something for right now. Maybe that's something that you could do in the future.
Yeah.
And these are the things that you need to work towards. Or you may need to consider selling that other property for the new one. And it said that change of perception of, because I believe you always need an exit strategy.
Yeah. Well, coming back to
It might change.
Yes, that's right, and it is okay.
And are you
to change.
okay with the change?
And comfortable, to do that. So I also think like if you because there's two edges, right? If you're in this relationship, then you're all in, and it should be trust, and but if you've been through something before, and there are no guarantees in life, and it is really healthy, we've talked about, to work through worse scenarios and say, that's what it is in case of. But it depends what underlying is also linked to, that money. Do I see that money as mine versus ours? And, because, we always say you put all your money in together and,
but
it doesn't
are
matter
you ready
who's
for
bringing
that?
What. I know. It maybe talks a lot about the relationship, actually.
It does. Because we're also in this stage where it takes two incomes to do anything.
Yep.
And to plan for the future and have like that retirement strategy, it's going to take the two people.
Yep.
The bank's going to want to see two incomes on that loan application.
Definitely.
Yeah. It's confusing. Are these relationships of convenience again or relationships because you're really committed to it?
Yeah.
And so making financial decisions can be really hard, particularly if you've been jaded before.
Definitely.
So I don't think there's any right or wrong answer.
There is no right or wrong. Be open communication.
Open communication and finding out the information. So even in that situation, may not be ready to do exactly what they thought, might be a good idea. But what do you need to do to get there? Doing a pros and cons list too. Like, am I okay with that new situation?
Yep.
What are the risks? And playing that through to like a worst case scenario, like if we broke up and we committed to this, is that okay? Because then you've almost got a business plan for yourself.
It really is.
And it's okay. I think you just need to kind of nut that out and go, right, well, if that worst case scenario happened, I'm okay with it.
That's right.
Or hang on, no.
You'll
not.
know.
You will. Your body will just tell you.
You'll know. Your feeling will tell you whether you're okay with it or not. And it is priorities and trade-off as well. So
and it's the information that will help you make those decisions. So don't sit in the dark in the feelings and go, gee, I wish I had this, or make a decision out of fear or the past story that Like it's like getting a bit of professional help, chatting it out, or nutting out the numbers for yourself.
Yep. Definitely getting, running all the scenarios, working it out. Because is there another exit plan? Could be. There's not always just one.
No.
If you worked it through and considered others and did the math on them. And also, maybe there's a better savings goal now. Save more to get it and keep the other one. I mean, it depends on the situation, what you're committed to.
To be honest, like it sounds a little bit cold. Like if you're having these conversations with your partner, they're hard. Like, hang on.
Yeah.
But really working it through could bring you a lot closer.
I think so. Definitely. Communication was the key for me. Yeah. Work out together. And, you don't have to decide immediately.
Like, it could be a good sign of the relationship if you can't talk about these things. It's almost like that's a prerequisite for a relationship nowadays.
I know. Well, I think...
Especially with what we're talking about, if you want independence or interdependence within a relationship.
That's right. You've got to talk about these things and work those things out. And the more you talk, I think the better off everyone will be.
That's if you're going for the change. Otherwise, if you're happy with the status quo and being a housewife, then whatever.
Well, good luck too. If that's what you want, that's okay. But if you're happy,
it's so interesting because, like, I think age gives you perspective. In my wise age of 40, because, like, even if I think back about what we were talking about with my wages and salary, like, that is like ignorance on me too. Like, you learn these things, and I've always trusted you. Do you know what I mean? So, like, on me, like, back then it was me, like, I undervalued myself. As well.
Well, that's what we do. You know, I don't know whether.
And I was taking the slops.
You did. I took the freaking
slops.
But, you know, I didn't say no to you taking the slops. So, you know, that is the problem. It's both sides, you know, like.
Very interesting.
But yes, but there are, as I said, there's things that should be done on workplaces to stop that. If you had better controls in place where, you know, everything was visible, that would stop that. Because people wouldn't want that. I don't think a lot of the time. They're just, conditioned. We've been conditioned a certain way.
So and that communication, openness, honesty with yourself.
And with the people
knowing
around
what you need and what you want in life. Clarity.
That's right. And we have an online course for it, people.
We do.
Yes. So we have recently launched an online course, you know, just to finish off today. We're super proud of it. It takes you through steps to financial well-being. You can do it over and over again. You can stop, you can start. It's at your own pace. You have this stuff for life, because these are things that you need to work through for life.
You need to understand yourself first of all. So like that money story, your money personality, how you behave with money, what you believe to be true, and then be really focused about what you want and how you're going to get there.
That's right.
And understanding the information you need to start making practical money decisions.
Exactly. Worst scenarios, best scenarios, work out your path forward, how long it's going to take you, and then track how you're going and keep reviewing it, you know? And your goals. So thank you for today.
Yes. We'll see you next time.
See ya. At the Money Collective, we provide financial wellbeing, premium coaching, mortgage broking and workplace financial wellbeing programs, which we couldn't do without the seamless support of our fabulous team.
If you'd like to find out more, head to themoneycollective.com.au or our socials to take action and engage our services. In our Facebook group, join the conversation and help us break down the taboo around money.
All content in this podcast is for educational purposes only and is general in nature. For tailored personal advice, please seek out a professional.